Hey buddies, it's Dylan and welcome to my Plunder Patrol deck profile. It's been a minute. I've actually recorded this deck profile 3 times and I finally decided to record it, and this is the one that's going to get uploaded because this is post-Rise of the Duelist. All the other ones were pre-Rise of the Duelist, and I decided I was going to wait until that came out to show you guys the power of this deck. Plunder Patrols, in my opinion, is such a good sleeper deck for the meta. I truly believe that it is worthy of getting a few tops in some higher events. I don't think it's tier 0, I don't think it's tier 1, but it'll make a top or two. And that's what I like about this deck. It is a going second deck, so you have to sort of adapt to what your opponent is playing. But I personally love this deck. I love the play style. I love the artwork. Cute little pirate goblins. Sign me up. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the video. Actually, before we get into it, don't worry. Some of the cards in here are a bit expensive, but at the end of the video, I will show you guys a bunch of budget alternatives and different variants that you guys can play as well. Okay, now let's get into it. Okay, so the first card we have up is 3 copies of Whitebeard the Plunder Patrol Helm. This is probably one of the better, if not the best, Plunder Patrol card in the deck. So the way that it works is that during your opponent's turn, you can special summon out a Plunder Patrol monster from your extra deck that has the same attribute as a monster that your opponent either controls or is in their graveyard. And then when it does that, Whitebeard then equips itself to that monster. And then, if it's sent from the monster zone or the hand to the graveyard, it special summons out a Plunder Patrol monster from your deck. The only issue with that second effect is that it locks you into Plunder Patrols. All of the Plunder Patrols are water type, fiends, and level 4, and some of them are tuners because there is a synchro, and we'll get more into that later. The next card is Redbeard the Plunder Patrol Métis. So Whitebeard and Redbeard were the 2 original main deck monsters that first came out for this deck. That's why one is a tuner and one is not. They both have the same first effect, which is to special summon a Plunder Patrol from your extra deck with the same attribute as a monster your opponent controls or is in their graveyard, and then it equips itself to it. But this one has a different effect when it is sent from the hand or monster zone. Instead, you can target one Plunder Patrol monster you control and equip this card to it. Next, we have 3 of Bluebeard, the Plunder Patrol Shipwright. This was a part of the second wave of Plunder Patrol support that came out in Echo. This one's actually really good. So if you control a Plunder Patrol monster, you can special summon it out. And if it's sent from the hand or monster zone to the graveyard, you can then discard a card to draw a card. Which comes up pretty well because, as you guys saw with the other 2, they want to be sent from either the monster zone or hand. So you could summon Bluebeard, and then once Bluebeard leaves the field, you could then use its effect to discard Whitebeard and draw a card and then activate Whitebeard's effect. And next we're going to go into probably the strongest, in my opinion, of the Plunder Patrol monsters. It's pretty much tied with Whitebeard, and it's Goldenhair, the newest Plunder Patrol. And even though it says newest Plunder Patrol, she's pretty badass. And the way that she works is that you can send one other Plunder Patrol monster card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, and then special summon this card from your hand. And then, if she's in your graveyard, you can discard one card to special summon her, but then it locks you into Plunder Patrols. This card is so broken, it adds a lot of recurrence to the deck, which getting enough monsters on field to do all your shenanigans is what the deck originally had an issue with. That's why before Goldenhair and Bluebeard came out, you actually ran cards like the Dangers to help you get there. But now we have Goldenhair, and Goldenhair is able to summon herself out pretty much twice, which helps with a lot of your combos. So that's it for the Plunder Patrol main deck monsters. You basically just run 3 of each. You want to maximize out on all of them. Next, into the rest of the monsters, we've got 3 Mathematician. When Mathematician is normal summoned, you can send 1 level 4 lure monster from your deck to the graveyard, and the card that you always want to send is Goldenhair, because once Goldenhair is in the graveyard, you can then discard any card from your hand to special summon her. And then lastly for the monsters, it's 3 Effect Veiler. And one of the main reasons we're running Effect Veiler is because later on we're going to see a spell where it also matters what attributes are in your graveyard, and you want to have a light type just so that you can go into the Plunder Patrol ship lists. Onto the spell cards, you're going to run 3 copies of Plunder Patrol Shipyard. That is with 3 R's, and this is really broken. Like, this is such a good field spell. The first effect it has is that each Plunder Patrol monster you control gains 500 attack for each Plunder Patrol card in your spell and trap zone. And those can add up super quickly, so you can end up giving all your monsters somewhere between 500 to 2500 attack point boosts. It then has 2 effects. You can discard 1 card to add 1 Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand, except itself. Super busted. It's basically a free search because you want to discard cards in this deck. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 Plunder Patrol card in your spell and trap zone, set this card, and if you do, return that target to the hand. That second effect is so good, especially when it comes to the grind game. If you end up using Whitebeard's effect to special summon a Plunder Patrol from the extra deck, Whitebeard's going to go into the spell and trap zone, and you're not going to be able to get Whitebeard's effect. But then, if you have a Shipyard in grave, you can use its effect to bounce the Whitebeard back to hand, and then you've not only got a Shipyard, but now you've got another Whitebeard ready to go. So, amazing field spell. Next, we have 3 Emblem of the Plunder Patrol. This card is pretty interesting. So it is an equip spell, and it gives a Plunder Patrol monster 500 attack, and then your opponent also cannot target it with card effects. But then it's got the second effect of you can send this equipped card to the graveyard, special summon 1 Plunder Patrol monster from your extra deck with the same attribute as a monster on the field or in the graveyard. And that goes back into why we're running effect failure. It's because a lot of times you want to be summoning out Liss, which is the fusion, and Liss is a light type. So you want to make sure you have access to lights, because maybe your opponent isn't playing any lights. And then you equip the monster that was equipped with Emblem to the card. And then you can only use this effect once per turn. Next, for the last Plunder Patrol card in the spell card zone, we've got 1 Plunder Patrol Ship-Shape Ships Shipping. This is the fusion card for the Plunder Patrols. And this card is actually really good. So if Fusion summons 1 Fiend Fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or graveyard as materials. And right now there's only 1 Plunder Patrol Fusion monster, and that's Plunder Patrol Ship Liss. And then it's got a graveyard effect, which is the effect that you'll use most often, because as you guys can tell, you're very rarely actually summoning out these monsters. So its second effect is that you can banish this card from the graveyard, and then you can target 1 Plunder Patrol monster you control, and you can either equip 1 Emblem of the Plunder Patrol or 1 of any Plunder Patrol monster from your deck to that target. And that works out super well, because then you're able to get Emblem, and then Emblem will allow you to go into more fusions as well. For the rest of the spells, we've got 3 Pot of Desires. This is pretty self-explanatory. You need draw power in this deck, because so far the only draw power we've really seen is Bluebeard, and then I guess the field spell Searches. Then we've got 3 Forbidden Droplet. I know, guys, I know not everybody has access to Forbidden Droplet, but this card is really good in this deck because it sends any number of other cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard, and then you choose that many effect monsters your opponent controls, and you guys know what Droplet does. It's basically like a super powered Dark Ruler no more, and like I said, it sends cards from your hand, field to the graveyard, which means you'll be able to send your Plunder Patrol cards. And we talked about it before, you want to discard your Plunder Patrol monsters. On to the rest of the spells, we've got 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Terraforming, 1 Salvage, and 1 Triple Tactics Talent. Like I said, guys, this is a going second deck, and running the 1 Triple Tactics Talent can pretty much help you every now and then. It's basically a sack card. Hopefully you see it, and if you do, it'll probably help you win the game, because it's just absolutely busted. You don't really want to run it at 3. It's kind of a brick at 3. If you guys look at lists from the OCG, they're also not running it at 3. They choose 1 or 2, and I decided to run it at 1 because we're also playing salvage. If you guys don't have a triple tactics talent, that's totally fine. I would just suggest running a second salvage because salvage is so good in this deck. It allows you to add 2 water monsters with attack points of 1500 or less from your graveyard to your hand. And guess what, guys? That's every single Plunder Patrol monster. So salvage just lets you recur 2 of your Plunder Patrol monsters from the graveyard back to your hand, which means if you add back Golden Hair and Whitebeard, you're kind of in a really good zone, because then you can just use Golden Hair's effect to pitch Whitebeard, and then you get Whitebeard's effect again while summoning Golden Hair. That's it for the spells, and let's move on to the traps. We've got 7 traps, and only 4 of them are Plunder Patrol based. We've got 3 copies of Plunder Patrol Booty. It's a continuous trap, and this card is really good when it comes to recursion. It allows you to target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and you declare an attribute, and their monster becomes that attribute until the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. Then you can take 1 Plunder Patrol monster from your graveyard, and you can either shuffle it back into the deck or special summon it. Yes, I know, and that's absolutely nuts. It's another form of recursion. It lets you special summon out your Plunder Patrols from the graveyard. And it really helps a lot, and allows you to also shuffle them back. So if you've got any of your extra deck monsters or you're running out, then you can just put them back in as well. Then it's got another effect where if during the end phase you don't control any Plunder Patrol monsters, you send this card to the graveyard. But that's okay because odds are you've got Plunder Patrol monsters on the field. And then for the last trap card that is Plunder Patrol based, we've got 1 copy of Plunder Patrol Party. I think at this point I should give a huge shout out to Crush Cards. Crush Cards actually sent me some of these Plunder Patrol cards. They were able to get the packs a bit earlier than I was, and they sent me over the copies of Golden Hair and Bluebeard and Party that you see. Party allows you to draw cards equal to the number of equip cards you control plus 1. You must control a Plunder Patrol monster to do this, and then you shuffle back from your hand into the deck equal to the number of equip cards you control. So it's basically like Saryuja, except instead of drawing 4, it's based on how many equip cards you control plus 1. I guess it's sort of like Phantasme. I shouldn't have said Saryuja. It's basically Phantasme. And then it's got a second effect when it's in the graveyard, and that's if you special summon a Plunder Patrol monster from your extra deck, while this card's in your graveyard, you can equip this card to that monster as an equip card, and then it gains 500 attack. That effect can only be used once per duel, and that's pretty much why we're only running 1 copy. And then to round off the deck, we've got 3 Infinite Impermanence. One of the main reasons we're running the Infinite Impermanence is because we are playing Forbidden Droplet. Since we're running Forbidden Droplet, we do want to make sure that we have a good amount of spells, traps, and monsters, just so that in a tight pinch we can send all 3 to make sure our opponent cannot respond at all to our Droplet. And that's also another reason why we're running Party, because Party pretty much just wants to go to grave to use the equip effect. Anyways, that rounds off the main deck. On to the extra deck. In the extra deck, we're running 3 Blackbeard the Plunder Patrol Captain. This is their link 2. To summon it, you need 2 monsters, including a Plunder Patrol, and it's got a quick effect where you can target 1 effect monster you control, and then special summon a Plunder Patrol monster from your extra deck with the same attribute as a monster your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. So it's basically like Redbeard or like Whitebeard, except it's a quick effect so it can happen on either player's turn. And then once you do that, you equip the target to it and draw a card. And then you can only use that effect once per turn. The main thing to point out here is that it can be any effect monster, which means even if you have a non-Plunder Patrol card on your field, you can use it to summon out a Plunder Patrol monster, although a lot of the times that is highly not what you want to do. You definitely want to be equipping a Plunder Patrol card to the Plunder Patrol extra deck monsters. Then we're running 2 of the rest, so we're running 2 Plunder Patrol ship lists. This is the new one that also came out of Echo, and boy oh boy is lists so good. So first, During the main phase, it's a quick effect, you can special summon one Plunder Patrol monster card from your hand or face-up spell and trap zone. And that's normally when they've been equipped there due to either Blackbeard or their own effect. Then, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can discard a Plunder Patrol card from your hand, negate the activation, and destroy it. Then, if this card was equipped with a Plunder Patrol monster at the same time, you can add another Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand. This is so good. They've all four of the extra deck monsters. I actually shouldn't say four. The link doesn't have any interruptions. But the other three, the Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz, all have some sort of disruption, and I believe that Liss is definitely the best disruption out of all of it. It negates monster effects. We all know how powerful negations are in today's metagame. Then on to the Synchro, we've got Plunder Patrol ship Bran. This one's a fire type, as opposed to Liss is light type. Bran says that all other Fiend monsters you control gain 500 attack. Then its effect is you can discard one Plunder Patrol card and target one spell or trap card your opponent controls, then banish it. And you can add a Plunder Patrol monster from your deck to your hand. Unlike Liss, where it's basically always a quick effect or it responds to your opponent's monster effect activation, this one says that if this card is equipped with a Plunder Patrol card, it becomes a quick effect. So it's actually a speed spell 1 unless you've equipped it with a Plunder Patrol card, then it becomes a quick effect. And then we've got the Xyz Plunder Patrol ship Mork, which is dark. It requires just 2 level 4s, and it has pretty much the same effect as the Bran, except instead of targeting a spell or trap, it targets one effect monster your opponent controls and banishes it. I guess the only difference between Bran and Mork is that Bran then searches a Plunder Patrol monster, but Mork searches a Plunder Patrol spell or trap, and then has the same thing where if it's equipped with a Plunder Patrol card, this effect becomes a quick effect. It's also got a secondary effect where if a Plunder Patrol card or cards you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material instead. But I'll be honest, in my testing, very rarely are you making Mork with materials. A lot of times you're just special summoning it out with one of the other effects, mainly because if you put Xyz materials underneath Mork, you aren't getting any of the effects when you detach, because they specifically say hand or monster zone. And we've got 3 more synchros left. We've got a Bahamut, Shark, and Toad. Pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, all of the Plunder Patrols are level 4 waters, so why not run Bahamut, Shark? And then you have the Toad, and lastly, Abyss Dweller for our Xyz. Everybody knows Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller goes in and out of the meta. Right now it's in, so that's why we're playing it. And then lastly, we have 3 Link monsters. I know I did Link monsters earlier, but these ones are not related to Plunder Patrols. We've got 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Almirage, and 1 Secure Gardna. So you're probably wondering why the Almirage and Secure Gardna. Almirage is a fire, Secure Gardna is a light. This allows you access to both Bran and Mork if you're using Emblem's effect. And it's not hard to get the Emblem to your hand. That is it for the extra deck. And I have prepared a side deck for you guys. This isn't the perfect side deck. This is just what I feel like I would like to use. I haven't been able to use the side deck yet. I haven't been able to go out in person and test this. But this is what I believe I would like to play. I've got 3 Artifact Sanctum. This is for when your opponent makes you go first. Like I said, Plunder Patrols is a going second deck, and inevitably your opponent will want you to go first at some point, so you're going to have Sanctums ready. Now for the artifact cards that I'm playing, I'm actually playing triple Lancia, just because Orcus and other decks like to banish right now, so it's good to run Lancia, and then I run the 1 Scythe. We all know the powerful effect of activate Sanctum, special summon Scythe on your opponent at the beginning of your opponent's turn. Most decks can't really do anything after that. Then we've got 3 Nibiru. This is for when you know you're going second and you really want to double down into it. Your opponent will be like, oh, whatever it is, nothing, they want me to have monsters. No, you're going to Nibiru them, and the best part about activating Nibiru on them is that you're going to give them a light token, and when you give them the light token, that means they control a light monster, which allows you to go into Plunder Patrol ship lists. So Nibiru is super good in this deck, and then you can also either use it as a big 3k beef stick, or you can use it as link material to go into stuff like Blackbeard. Then we're running 3 Cosmic Cyclone. So the one issue that this deck has is that other than the Bran, it's got no inherent spell and trap removal. I've thought about playing Twin Twisters in the main, but I just can't really find the room, so I've decided to put the Cosmic in the side deck just in case we do go up against a deck that requires spell and trap removal. And then there's 2 cards left in the extra deck, and it is Cyber Dragon Nova and Invoked Macabre. And I think you guys can pretty much guess why these are in here. It's because of Dogmatica. Dogmatica Maximus effect will make you send from your extra deck to the graveyard. You send Nova, and then Nova effect to special summon Macabre. Then you've got a free negate on board. This is only here as long as Dogmatica is popular. Once Dogmatica is no longer around, then I'll probably be putting in more spell and trap removal, like 2 more Twin Twisters or something like that. You can also run Twin Twisters instead of Cosmic. It's just a personal preference. Twin Twisters does have the added benefit of discarding a card. I just feel that if you put in too many cards that require discards, then you end up not having a hand and you lose card advantage. Okay, guys, that's it for the deck. I hope you enjoyed. Now I'm going to talk to you guys about some budget alternatives and some different, I guess I should say, not techniques, but different variants on the deck that you can definitely use, and some other cards that I considered putting in, but just did not find the room for. So I'll show you guys a couple right now. First one was 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. If you guys can find the room to put this in, be my guest. Ghost Ogre is definitely a really good card right now. You can try putting it in instead of the Veiler. It is a light type, so it does run the same effect. It just all depends on the meta, whether or not you would rather have a Veiler or Ghost Ogre, because you already have Impermanence, so that's one way of looking at it. The next card that we're going to talk about is Cyframe Gear Gamma. Like I said, this deck is going second, and if you guys watch the Remote Duel Invitationals, Gamma came in pretty darn clutch during the tournament. So Gamma is a very good option to put in the deck. I was just having a hard time finding 4 slots in the main to put this in. The deck was already at like 42 cards, so if you guys can find room to put this in, just do it. Gamma's such a good card, and it's a light type. Might as well, you're already going second, so there's no reason not to do it. Then the next cards that I originally had in here, it is 3 Gen X Undyne and the 1 Gen X Controller. So Gen X Undyne, for those of you who don't know, is when this card's normal summoned, you can send 1 water monster from your deck to the graveyard as cost, and then add 1 Gen X Controller from your deck to your hand. I originally played this because Gen X Undying effect, it is cost, which means your opponent can't really negate it, and you'd send Golden Hair, and then you'd add the Gen X Controller to hand, and then you'd immediately have discard fodder to summon out your Golden Hair, and then you'd have Golden Hair and this, and you'd be able to make your Blackbeard. So that was one reason I had it in, but then I had a talk with one of the other members of the Buddy Force, and we were talking about the benefits of putting in Mathematician. The only real benefit to Undyne is that it is water, and I don't have the cards with me, but there is one other card that I was thinking about putting in, and I actually did run it for a while, but you'd only run it if you're running the Gen X engine, and that is Deep Sea Minstrel. I'll put a picture up on the screen right here. But Deep Sea Minstrel has the effect where you can discard it and a water monster from your hand, and then you can banish a card out of your opponent's hand. So it lets you rip a card out of your opponent's hand, lets you see your opponent's hand. Super good advantage, but I only really run it if I'm running the Gen X engine because I've got a boatload of water monsters to discard. Because basically, once you use 1 Undyne, the rest are useless, so you can always just use them as discard fodder for Minstrel. So yeah, if you guys want, that's another option that you can do, is use the Gen X engine along with Deep Sea Minstrel, and it'll allow you to look at your opponent's hand and rip a card out. And then the last thing that I've got to show you guys is, like before I said, Forbidden Droplet is a super, super expensive card. I understand that not everybody's going to have access to it, and that's why as a replacement, you've got 3 Dark Ruler No More. I'll be honest, I was using Dark Ruler No More when I was playing the deck. When I played the deck before all the Echo Sport came out, I had Dark Ruler No More in there. Before I could afford droplets, I had Dark Ruler No More in there. I was really tossing cards up in the air to see which one I would put in this deck, whether it was Droplet or Dark Ruler No More, because obviously Dark Ruler No More doesn't really have a cost. The only real cost is that your opponent doesn't take battle damage. So that's that. Honestly, it's up to you guys. I do like droplets a bit more because it gives you a bit more freedom with without it being interrupted. Like, you send spells or traps, then there's no way your opponent can negate it. And it also allows you to send cards, which, like we talked about, the Plunder Patrols want to be sent. But for sure, if you guys can't get droplets, Dark Ruler No More is a perfect example of a card that could be used instead. A very good budget option, because Dark Ruler No Mores aren't that expensive right now. Anyways, I'm sorry that this video was so long. I hope you guys enjoyed this real in-depth look at Plunder Patrols. It's been a long time coming. Like I said, I've filmed this about 3 or 4 times, and I just wanted to make sure I got it right for you guys. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And huge thanks to FusionGamingOnline.com for helping me get a majority of these cards. And shoutouts to Crush Cards for helping me get the rest. Anyways, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.